Right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's just gone 7:30. Welcome to this meeting of the Parish Partnership Panel. Your attendance is drawn to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance of how the meeting will be conducted, including the ground rules. By way of introduction, I suggest we do a roll call to confirm which borough councillors, county councillors, parish and/or town councillors representatives are in attendance today. So I'm going to ask Sally to do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we'll start with borough councillors and then move on to parish and town councils and finish with our county councillor. When I call your name, please, can you confirm that you are present? Councillor Doughton?
Present.
Councillor Tatton?
Present.
With apologies from Councillor Bell and Councillor Batts.
Oh, I'm here.
Present.
Councillor
Bell's
Banks?
here.
Present.
Councillor Bolton? Councillor Boxall?
Apologies.
Thank you. And Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, present online.
Yeah, Councillor Chapman is online. And we have apologies from Councillor Coffin and Councillor Crisp is online, I believe. Councillor Hammond, apologies. Councillor Hickmott.
Yes, present online.
Oh, Councillor Hickmott is online.
think-
Thank you.
Who's on Teams?
Yes, it's online. And Councillor Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to our parish and town councils. I will call by the name of the parish and town council and would be grateful if one of their representatives can please confirm that they're present. I'll start with the second vice chair from Riage, Councillor Mary McKinley. And Addington? Aylesford?
Present online.
Okay. And Berlin? Bath Green? Barham?
Present.
Eaton?
Present online.
And East Morley and Luckfield? East Peckham?
Present.
Atlow? Apologies for it. Hildenborough? Okay. Iton? Kings Hill? Sarah Barker might arrive late. Leybourne? Arrowworth? Orphan? Flat?
Present.
Blackstone?
Present online.
Tuburn?
Present online.
Northland?
I'm online. It's Sue Bell.
Dunsted? Crossley? We have apologies for you. Wateringbury? We had apologies from the chair. Westmoreland?
Present.
West Peckham? Walden?
Present online.
Bruton?
Present.
So now we're moving on to county councillors. Councillor Dean. We have apologies from Councillor Hudson and Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Rayner.
Present.
Apologies from Councillor Shine. So that's the roll call concluded and now attendance.
Thank you very much, Sally. Item 3 is notification of substitute members. There's none. And also, as we've got some faces sitting up here in the officers' ranks today, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, starting from Sally, and work the way through.
Good evening, I'm Sally Wang, Democratic Services Officer.
Good evening, everybody. Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
Good evening, James Bailey, Head of Planning.
Louise Stewart, Climate Change Officer.
Good evening, everyone. Jill Fox, Corporate Policy and Communities Manager.
Jody Solomons, Planning Enforcement Manager. Hello, I'm Ian Williams, the Development Manager.
Thank you all very much. Item 4 is the minutes. Can I sign the copy of the minutes that you should all had? Are you happy with that? Thank you. Updates on the minute are identified on the minutes. Anyone from the floor got any questions they wish to update or comment upon? No? Thank you. Item 6, update on devolution and local government reorganisation. This is going to be a joint effort by Matt Bolton, our leader, and Damien, our Chief Executive. Matt?
Thank you very much, Roger. Good evening to everyone in the chamber and joined us online. Damien is just going to put some slides up, which we'll run through very quickly because some of you will have seen these before. Just before I kick off, for the benefit of those who are attending online, we can't actually hear you in the chamber at the moment, but hopefully this will be resolved by the time I finish this presentation. So next slide, please, Damien. So just a quick reminder of where we are. By the end of next week, every council in Kent and Medway has got to submit a final proposal for how local government will be reorganised. It's got to be based on clear assumptions, and it's got to demonstrate how we unlock devolution, as well as a number of other criteria that we've discussed before. This council had a meeting of its Overview and Scrutiny Committee last Thursday, and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee decided that the best option for Tunbridge and Moorland, using the criteria the government sets that we've discussed at previous parish partnership panels, would be the free unitary proposal, which is option 3A, which sees us grouped together with Sevenoaks, Maidstone and Tunbridge Wells. The benefits of that are that the populations are balanced across the three unitaries. The councils are of a sufficient scale to withstand financial shocks. It respects local identities and critically existing boundaries, because we know from the work we've done that as soon as you break up borough and parish boundaries, as some of the models do, that will just increase the cost. And critically, it aligns with a lot of other public sector providers, for example, the police and the NHS services. The other thing that's worth saying is that it allows us to unlock devolution, which essentially is unlock a load of money that can come to us from government and additional powers, because it has more than one authority. Kent County Council are promoting one council across the whole of Kent, and the issue with that is you can't create a combined authority if you haven't got anyone to combine with. Next slide. So you'll see on the left the Kent County Council model. They talk about these things called area assemblies, but they are completely non-binding. You'll see our option that's got the red box around it, and you'll see the other options that were considered: 4B, 4D and 5A. You may remember that I spoke through these at our previous PPP, But as I said, the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and that was subsequently ratified by Cabinet earlier this week, decided to push through option 3A as our preferred proposal from the 5. And on the next slide, we will see some of the reasons that really influence that, because this slide, although there's a lot on it, essentially ranks the criteria down on the left, the evaluation of those criteria, which is in the middle, and then simply rates whether they're high, medium or low for each of the options. And you'll see that option 3A is one of the highest scoring models. It's certainly the highest of the multi-unitary options, and that was a key driver for us, because ultimately we need to put forward a proposal that's realistic based off the government criteria as to what local government will look like in the future, even though this will be quite different from Tunbridge and Morlin. On the next slide, you'll see just a bit of information about populations. So the population of the West Kent unitary would be 567,000. The biggest of the three would be North Kent at 686,000, and it's about 660,000 for East Kent. So again, the population variance between the unitaries as a percentage is the lowest there. That is still significant in terms of the population increase from where we are at the moment. We are 135,000 people, give or take, Tunbridge and Morlin. So the new council is going to be a lot larger, but that was inevitable when the government said they've got to be a minimum size of 500,000. I mean, personally, I think it's quite regrettable, but as we've discussed before, we have to put one's personal opinions to one side and actually think about how we are going to engage with the process. On the next slide, you'll see some of the key public service providers. The NHS, we know that you can't move hospitals, for example, and that all of the healthcare boundaries we have in the country are built around physical infrastructure, i.e. hospitals. The NHS is organised very similar to the free unitary model. The Police and Crime Commissioner, although it was announced last week, the role is going to be abolished. Matthew Scott, our Police and Crime Commissioner, is responsible for essentially the oversight of the police. The free unitary model matches how Kent Police are structured. They're structured into a North Division, an East Division and a West Division. Now, Matthew Scott's made it very clear that he is not of the view that we need to do a costly police restructure as well as a costly local government reorganisation at the same time. And if any other boundaries are used, then it will be necessary for Kent Police to restructure. So subsequently, he's very much in support of option 3A, and that's beneficial for Kent Police as well as ourselves as an advocate of that. Kent Fire and Rescue 2, and key voluntary and housing providers. And Damien's now going to talk through some of the detailed finances.
Thank you, Matt. Now, arguably, given that local government is more financially challenged than it's ever been, and there are more councils across the country that are finding themselves in financial difficulty, the business case really matters for the future of local government. I just wanted to explain how the business case has been put together. Like all business cases, there are costs of implementing local government reorganisation, and there are potential savings. And the question is, does the savings that could be achieved outweigh the costs? That's really the test at hand. So what kind of costs are there? There are implementation costs, the cost of going from what we have today, 14 councils across Kent, to however many unitaries the government agrees. There are savings that can be achieved by bringing smaller organisations together, getting economies of scale, leveraging more power in the market when we contract services, being able to get economies of scale from our purchasing. But there are also another type of cost. They're called disaggregation costs. These are the costs of breaking up county services. So we're talking about the cost of breaking up adult social care, children's social care, highways. And for every additional unitary council that gets created, you create an additional level of cost associated with that disaggregation. What does that mean in practice? It means that at the moment we have one director of adult social care covering the whole of Kent. They have a senior team of directors that sit under them that manage and direct the work of that team. If you have 2 unitaries, you have to have 2 directors, 2 senior teams. If you have 3 unitaries, you have 3 directors of adult social care and 3 senior teams managing that. And when you factor in, it's not just adults, but it's children's, it's highways and other functions. You can see that very quickly, if you go down the route of having too many unitaries, the costs will escalate. And the challenge with disaggregation costs are very different from those costs that are associated just with implementation. Implementation costs, once they're spent, you don't have to spend them again. The costs of disaggregation continue year on year going forward and become a bit of a burden for the new unitary. And so any option that keeps the disaggregation cost to a reasonable minimum is likely to be the most effective in terms of the business. And then hopefully the new unitaries are able to deliver savings. Those savings are delivered year on year, and hopefully those savings will quickly pay back the cost of implementation. That's really what we're testing. Now, these aren't our figures. They're not figures that we've dreamt up. They're figures that our strategic partner, KPMG, who are working on about half of the local government reorganisation proposals across the country, has developed for us. And these are drawing upon figures that all the local authorities have contributed towards, and it's mainly figures that are in the public domain. So no magic applied here, just hard facts and a tried and tested model developed by our strategic partner. What this shows is that compared to all the multi-unitary options, the implementation costs associated with 3A, the area highlighted in red, is the lowest. The only one lower is the 1 unitary option. As has been mentioned earlier, that doesn't meet government's criteria and doesn't provide a platform on which to create evolution. When you look at the disaggregation cost that I mentioned earlier, it also has the lowest disaggregation cost of any other option. And when you look at the savings, it also has the highest level of reoccurring savings compared to any other option. And that means that the business case has a payback period of between 5.4 and 6.7 years. So with a bit of luck, within just over 5 years, all the costs associated with local government reorganisation will be covered, will in effect be paid for. And then going forward, the savings that new unitary is able to achieve can be reinvested back into services. But as you can see, as you progress to 4B, that's 4 unitaries, 5D, so 4D, 4 unitaries with breaking of borough and town and parish boundaries, and 5A, the payback period grows significantly. And at the moment, looking at the business case, 5A's worst scenario is they'll never, ever be able to pay back the costs of implementing local government reorganisation. If you're thinking about local government reorganisation being a way of establishing financially sustainable councils going forward that are big enough, robust enough to sustain potential financial shocks, the 3 unitary option is by far the strongest and gives local government the best opportunity for the future. There's also been some high-level public engagement to seek views about local government reorganisation. Now, you will not be surprised to hear that most residents aren't yet aware that local government is being reorganised, and a significant proportion that are aware aren't hugely interested, given all the other things that are going on in their lives and across the world. But those residents that have taken their time to participate, given us some really clear feedback. They want the new arrangements to focus on the quality of services provided, quality of local government services provided. They've given a very high priority to efficiency and value for money. That business case really does matter in terms of meeting the needs and aspirations of our residents for cost-effective local government services that aren't wasting money on things that aren't needed. And they also want local government to be organised in a way that solves people's problems quickly. So responsive local government. They certainly saw opportunities from simplifying local government structures, clarifying responsibilities. You all know that it is confusing, even for us, around the difference between what the county provides and what the boroughs and districts provide, what the government services provide and what towns and parishes provide. This new model will at least provide some level of simplification. They want to see us clarifying responsibilities and making the most of economies of scale to streamline operations and to reduce bureaucracy and deliver better value for money. I think all really important messages that we need to take forward as we look at implementing local government reorganisation in Kent. So, what is the likely timetable ahead? Well, Matt mentioned that we are working really hard towards the 28th of November submission deadline for our proposals, and each council will be submitting their proposals on that day. The government will be undertaking some statutory consultation in the new year. We don't know exactly when, but it could be from February, March, maybe even April, and they will be seeking feedback on the proposals. So please do look out for that. And if you have the opportunity to comment positively about the 3 unitary option, please do take the opportunity to do that as well. The decision on the final geography will not be for us to take. The government will make that decision in the summer. Again, we don't have a precise date, but we think it will probably be early summer, maybe July. And they will basically tell us what geography they have selected. We can only guess at this stage what that will be, but clearly this council has already decided that the 3 unitary option is the one that it most favours. Once they do that, they will be looking at establishing a structural changes order and then seeking approval for that structural changes order through Parliament. That will give the name of the new councils, the number of new councils, the geography of those new councils, so there will be complete clarity about what we need to implement across. That will then lead to elections in May 2027 to the shadow authority. So that will be the opportunity for those members to start to shape the new organisation, recruit to the top posts, develop a budget and corporate strategy and an operating model. And then from April 2028, all the existing councils will cease to exist and the new unitary councils, hopefully 3 unitary councils, will exist. And hopefully there will be a smooth transition between the local government we have now and the 3 or whatever number of unitaries the government currently or eventually decide from April 2028. Okay, I'm now going to hand back to Matt.
Thank you, Damien. So just a couple of things to finish in terms of the vision and what it means for parish councils. So we had a session with KPMG. They took all of the leaders and chief executives of the 14 principal councils into their nice offices up at Canary Wharf for a day, and effectively they looked us in a room and said, what do you want the new councils to deliver? What's your frustrations as a borough councillor, as a county council? What is it that are the opportunities that come out of reorganisation? Because while we might not be overly happy with the process, we've got to make it work for the best for residents up and down the borough. Now, fortunately, KPMG have their own illustrator in hand who decided to draw the outcomes of it, which is great if you're a visual learner, and this is what it was. And I'm just going to highlight a few things there because the picture can articulate this better than any of my words can. But there was a huge focus on place, a sense of place. It says welcome to my town there, but it could be welcome to my village, welcome to my parish, welcome to my hamlet. How can a new authority that covers a number of different places continue to provide high quality services for that particular place? And that's a really important aspect of this, because I actually used us as an example. I said Tunbridge and Moorland is a collection of different communities, a collection of different parishes, and what's right for the residents in Ightham is very different for residents in Aylesford, for example, and Tunbridge for that too. So a real focus on delivering for different places. We really wanted to demonstrate too, in terms of the work that we'll continue to do on this, about how councils can work together to create a seamless and competent transfer. There's a really important question about being brave and bold and honest. They were words that came out really a lot in the conversations that we had. This is a real opportunity. We must see it as an opportunity to start the process of actually generating some real inward investment into Kent. we've got a wonderful story to tell. We're a really unique county, and I know in North and East Kent there's a view that actually West Kent can be the economic powerhouse of it, and that's going to come through in our submission. And the sense of pride too, pride in the place, pride in the towns and the villages was really something quite important, and is reflected in that. So again, that's just something a bit different in terms of what we did, and hopefully you'll agree with that vision. What are the opportunities for parish councils? Now, I've spoken to a few of you about these opportunities, and I know that there is actually a difference of view across some parishes about whether local government reorganisation is a good thing or a bad thing for the parish council. Well, there is the opportunity to strengthen the role and scope. Much larger unitaries, they're covering a greater population. There are more parishes involved in those. It's highly likely that that the new unitary will have some parishes in that remain small as some of our smaller parishes, but also have parish councils that cover towns the size of Tunbridge, or even Tunbridge Wells or Maidstone, perhaps. So actually, how can the unitary work for parishes of all different sizes? I've referenced potentially parish council in Tunbridge in our case, but also elsewhere too. So we'll look at being fully parished, and we know from Sevenoaks, which is fully parished, that actually that does impact on, in a positive way, on the relationship between the principal council and the parish council. Calc's got a really important role to play. Obviously, I'm not qualified to talk about Calc, but there'll be changes that arise there too, but they'll be a key partner. And really the opportunity to strengthen the relationship is there, because we know that there'll be some services that we deliver at Tunbridge and Morlin that the new unitary might not be in a financial position to deliver. We know that there are some services that we deliver here, and Kent County Council that deliver too, that might not have the focus and the attention that we're able to give at the moment. Again, across a bigger geography, and with the key spending areas of adult social care, children's services, temporary accommodation and special educational needs transport all being delivered at the same authority. So just to conclude, as we've said, the free unitary option is the one that's been supported by this council. It's the one that we've articulated over the last few months and advocated for all of the reasons that we've discussed. It's the strongest business case of the of the compliance options, the best balanced population. It keeps borough boundaries the same to help with the implementation. It is big enough to deliver, but small enough to care. It aligns with other public services, helps unlock devolution, and subject to some meetings that are taking place right now, we expect it to be the option that has greater support from councils across Kent. Ourselves, Folkestone and Hythe, Maidstone, Sevenoaks and Tunbridge Wells are all already behind this option. As Damien said, the decision will rest with the government in the summer next year. There'll be a key consultation at the start of next year, and we hope that all parish councils can get behind this option. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Damien. And right, are there any questions from the floor? What you've heard? Westmoreland?
Yeah, Keith Mann from Westmoreland Parish Council. This is probably a question that displays my complete ignorance of what's going on here. The word devolution has been floated around, and the legislation uses that word in its title. But I'm completely mystified as to what actually is going to be devolved from Whitehall down to the unitaries. Can either of you enlighten me on that at all?
What the government did when they published the devolution white paper that effectively set out 2 work streams of devolution and local government reorganisation was they set out a framework of different powers that they wished to be devolved. And they're talking about devolution from the government, not necessarily to the new unitary authorities, but to a strategic combined authority. These are, and there are 7 of them, and forgive me, Keith, I'm going to forget them all off the top of my head, but one of them, for example, was strategic planning and transport. One of them was in relation to strategic economic regeneration. One was around environment and climate change initiatives. Strategic planning too. Forgive me, I can't remember the others off the top of my head. The purpose being that the combined authority would essentially have a budget that would accompany those powers too, and that would be controlled by an elected mayor of Kent, and that elected mayor of Kent can effectively act as commissioner of those services. We expect, or we don't know that when devolution is likely to come, but from watching what's happening elsewhere, because the authority from the regions that were included in the priority programme, what's going to be particularly interesting is just how powerful those mayors become. We know that the mayors that are already in place have got significant powers already over their local areas. Some of them are controlling bus services, for example, which I think would be helpful for some rural parishes. So that's been accompanied by individual funding settlements that have come from the government, and frankly greater powers than that we're able to lever at the moment. And I think there's an opportunity there, but the government has said you have local government reorganisation to do it. Damien's now going to tell you everything that I've forgotten.
Thank you again for the question. There's not really much more to add other than we are a little bit frustrated because, as you've indicated, the government did start by talking about devolution, and then suddenly, well, there was the opportunity to be on something called the devolution priority programme. This council and other councils in Kent said, yeah, we want to be on the devolution priority programme, and the government sadly did not put us on that programme. So we are one of the only places in the southeast of England that is not going to get devolution early. That also creates a disadvantage because it means that we have less of a voice particularly across Kent with government, less influence over national policy. And as well as the additional resources that comes with devolution, also comes additional powers, additional freedoms and flexibilities that would, I think, genuinely make a difference for local residents. And at the moment, it's very frustrating. Government has not yet given us any indication what timetable they're prepared to allow devolution to happen.
Mike Taylor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Speaking with my parish council hat on, the West Kent Parish Alliance met a few weeks ago and put together a response to this consultation. It's been circulated to all parishes, and so far we've had another 6 parishes and 1 town council sign up to join that response. That response will be going to the Borough Council to be integrated with its response over the weekend. So anybody else who wants to put their name down on that response needs to get it to me or Sarah Barker by close of business tomorrow. You are, of course, quite at liberty to make your own consultations response direct to government. Thank you.
Chairman, it's just really to ask a question from the bottom up in terms of parishes and towns. We always link into our borough or district, and then that goes to Kent County Council, and then it goes up to Parliament. So once we become a unitary council, there's going to be a big void, isn't there, between the parishes and the towns, and then there's this vacuum, and then you've got your unitary councils doing all what they do. What about those people that are on the grassroots dealing with the day-to-day issues? How will their voice be heard? Has government thought about that?
This is a real danger. This is a real risk. Sorry, Roger. And I personally think this is one of the reasons why the new councils are going to argue about being too big, whatever way you draw the map. The government have recognised this. I wouldn't go as far as say they've recognised the valuable role of town and parish councils, because I think you've got 2 lines in the devolution white paper and no mention in the legislation that came forward. But they've realised there's a problem because they've insisted that the new authorities create these things called area committees. What we don't know at the moment is what area committees will actually look like. So, for example, will they just be made up of unitary councillors? Will there be the opportunity for unitary councillors and parish councillors beyond them? Will it be unitary councillors, parish councillors and business representatives or other community representatives? We just don't know. We also don't know, and nor can we require the area committees to have any budget associated with them, any particular powers. That's going to be a decision for the new council. So after, as Damien spoke about the timeline, after the shadow elections, there'll be a year before vesting day, which is the day of changeover, in which a lot of these decisions will be bottomed out by those who are on the unitary authority. But I think the government is using area committees as a way of overcoming the criticism that the new unitary authorities will be too remote from residents and parish councils in particular. Are they an effective substitute? I have my doubts about that, but this is a government that hasn't paid that much regard to parish councils in this process.
Harry.
Matt and Damien, through you, Chairman, could you just remind me, I think there's something of the order of 7 or 8 in the priority programme, and after that, how many other councils are there to go through the process that you mentioned there of 6 to 9 months to get it through Parliament?
So from memory, there are, as you say, seven or 8 in the priority programme. I think there's another 14 or 15 regions, albeit while our Kent and Medway geography is very much set, because obviously we kind of don't have anywhere to go, there are some in the middle of the county in which that was a much more difficult conversation to have when you were putting submissions through to the devolution priority programme. But I believe I believe there's 14 or 15, and then within that there's different councils, like we've got 14. The
reason I asked the question is I'm looking at the amount of time taken, 6 to 9 months according to the sheet you had there, to get the legislation through Parliament, and I see that as a potential issue there, in terms of, you look at the amount of time it's taken them to get the 7 or 8 through on the priority programme, with all the issues with Surrey, for example, and others, and then I'm looking at 15 more on top of that between what, 27 and 29. That's a tall order.
Any other questions for Matt, Damien or Damien? Robin.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Rayner highlights the worry I have actually is the fact that I worry whether this is actually going to be achieved at all. And we're all making preparations for what we think might happen, and we're adapting the way we run our council now in preparation for that, and capital plan projects, etc. But then the concern is it doesn't happen. So I just think we have to be mindful of that position. And of course, if they do delay and they don't get this organised or through before their next election, then I'm not trying to forecast the next election, but looking at their popularity at the moment, if that wasn't sustained, then the next government coming into administration may have other ideas. So I think that's a major concern to us at the moment, or me anyway.
I'll just make a very quick response, because I think that is right. There is still uncertainty about whether the government is able to deliver against its very ambitious timetable. The only thing, though, is that they have brought forward or laid down the path for new legislation to streamline the process, to standardise the process, and reduce the risks associated with implementing at pace. So they do, at the moment, appear still to be serious. And the conversations we have with MHCLG officials in Whitehall are all reinforcing the view that the timetable they've set out for the new unitaries going live, vesting day on the 1st of April 2028, is something that they are still driving to. So I think the uncertainty still exists, but the government don't appear to be showing any signs of slowing down at the moment.
Right, thank you very much. You see there's no more questions from the floor. We go on to item 7, which is the update on the local plan, and James Bailey, Head of Planning, is going to take this one. James.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought today I would go through what is available online just to take you through in terms of our consultation platform online, because everything that we've done in terms of the local plan, our evidence base, our land availability assessment, the site allocations is all available online. And I don't know if any of you, some of you have been next door to our exhibition, which is replicated on our virtual exhibition, which is online. So I thought I'd just take the opportunity today to go through just a sort of a, I won't call it a quick canter through the local plan because there's too much evidence base in there to go through it all at once. But I just wanted to show you sort of an easy way of accessing certain parts of the information if you haven't already at the current time. So we did go out to consultation on the 10th of November. We're running the consultation until the 2nd of Jan, midnight on the 2nd of Jan. So that's just short of just over a 7-week period for consultation. And I just thought I'd go through in terms of exactly how you access the information through our website. So what you've got on screen is our landing page, the Tunbridge and Moorling Borough Council website. And there's various ways to access the documentation, but you'll notice just here, this is an easy key to access the local plan consultation, or else you can access it through the planning service medium. But I'll just take you through the easy option accessing here. So once you've clicked on that button, it takes you to the local plan page, and there is a big sign saying how to have your say. You click on that local plan, and this brings us into our consultation, what we call a consultation platform. There's a lot of time has been taken in terms of laying it out as easily and an easy format that we possibly can do. But what they are, these are called tiles. We call these tiles, and it breaks the local plan down into various chapters because we recognise that not everyone will want to comment on every section of the local plan, but there may be specific areas that you wish to comment, whether that's site allocations, whether it's the land availability assessment, whether it's particular chapters in the policy of the local plan. So it's broken down into various tiles, and each of those tiles has questions within it that enables people to, if you want to go through every part of the plan, which I would obviously like to encourage you to do in your residence, but if you didn't want to do that, you can go down into various options and various chapters. So I wasn't going to go into all the detail, but I thought we would just start off with our cabinet member who's here today and his welcome page, which effectively has a little video within it, and I'm going to see if I can play the video for you tonight because it's not very long, and see if the technology is going to work for me. It's only 1 minute 46. Let's see if it works. Oh, I've got to press the toggle. Someone said I've got to press a toggle for it to play. Oh, okay. Bear with me, sorry. No, it is working. Oh, is there a little toggle here? No. Okay, how do I get that to play? Right, well, I'm not going to dwell on that point, but what I would encourage you to do is to listen to the video. It's only 1 minute 40. It just goes through the borough from an aerial shot as to why we're consulting, why it's important to consult, the importance of having local comment, local feedback on the local plan, and that's in effectively our cabinet members' welcome address in the first page. So unfortunately, sorry about that. You can't hear the commentary on that point, but it's quite easy to read the writing on there, and it sort of emphasises some of the key characteristics of the borough, both employment, both in terms of Tunbridge, the town centre, in terms of our countryside, and what's important that we need to draw upon in terms of the local plan, and we're seeking your views on. So I'll just come out of that, and again, I said there are various tiles. I think it's important to sort of look at the tile in terms of comments and our virtual exhibition, which again I would encourage you to have a look at, and effectively in our events section It shows out all the events, and I'll say our leader is being particularly proactive on this point, and you'll see a lot of our events column here are head up by the leader. We've also got a number of virtual drop-in sessions around the borough, but by all means have a look at your own leisure where you can see exactly what's going on in the local plan. Oh, and Mike, sorry, cabinet member, sorry, I don't just mean to miss out Mike, but please do take a bit of time to look at that. As I said, there's lots of events going on. The leader and the cabinet member attending most of the parish council meetings. We've got drop-in centres both here, both down at the Church Methodist Church Tunbridge, both at the Angel Centre. So there's lots going on, and there's lots to try to get your interaction and involvement. And with each of those events, there will be the exhibition, which you would see next door, and that enables any questions to be answered on that point. I will just go into, so we also, as I said, referred to earlier about the virtual exhibition. And is it going to work for me? Unfortunately, yes, it is going to work for me. So in terms of, we have a virtual exhibition, and this is our virtual exhibition. Where we've got our main video here that I couldn't have the sound on, so you go into it and here, and it shows an explainer of the video of the council and the aspirations of the local plan, and then there's an exhibition board that you actually can go around on a virtual element. So that's the same as what you've got next door, but it's a sort of an explainer of what the local plan is about. So again, I would encourage yourselves and your parishioners to show people what the virtual exhibition is about, because we do want to promote the local plan and have your say as much as possible. So if I come out of this section, it's just taking time for it to catch up. I'm not going to go into every tile because every tile goes into the chapter, but I think what is important, I'll just show you an example of a particular tile. So this is the tile that you go into. So this is the chapter of the local plan, and this is the spatial strategy chapter. The reasons why I brought this out is quite an important chapter because it sets out key elements in terms of the spatial strategy that the council is looking at. So it's worked on in terms of a pocketbook scenario. You just click, and you can click in either direction. And I'm just going to show you in terms of one of these key areas in terms of housing land supply, in terms of a key area. So some key facts, what the local plan is looking to produce. So in terms of what are our housing numbers that we're required to deliver each year, the government mandates us or requires us deliver 1,097 dwellings per year. Now our plan period runs from 2024 to 2042. We're running an 18-year period, but the legislation requires us to have a 15-year supply. So hence that's why legally, to have a legally compliant local plan, we have to project forward 15 years. You times that by 1,097, it's a lot of dwellings that the government is requiring us to provide. And this is the difficulty with the local plan, because there are some challenging site allocations going forward, some challenging choices for the council to make going forward, but it's important that both the residents of Tunbridge and Mooring, yourselves, the parishes, have the opportunity to comment and have their say on what you like, what you don't like, what you would like to see in the emerging local plan, because this is Regulation 18, so effectively our second stage consultation on Reg 18. The next stage is a Reg 19, which is the plan that members will adopt, and that's the plan that we will submit to the planning inspectorate. And whilst we go out to consultation on the next stage, those responses are just handed over to the planning inspector to consider them. So in terms of what we need, as I said, 1,097 dwellings. So our total supply equates to 19,776. So the allocations in the plan only produce a surplus of 30 dwellings over that plan period. So that's only 30 dwellings. And obviously, when we go to submit the local plan to the inspectorate, there's also a 10% allowance that the inspectorate also recommend that we should include in terms of for meeting our need due to, for instance, now downturns in the economy, houses aren't shifting, and so therefore they're not coming forward. So within that, we should be building in a 10% addition to that overall supply. But what we're coming up with at the current time is that we're meeting our need, our objectively assessed need. That's how the government works out the need for the borough. So we're meeting that need, but we're only just meeting that need by 30 units, 30 dwellings. But also taking into that calculation, we've obviously, as I said, 2024, the plan starts in 2024. We've had houses approved and they're in the pipeline. So within that pipeline of houses, we've already got 4,553 houses. So they're in the reserve and they count towards that overall 19,000. So the site allocations that you've seen or you will see in this consultation, they equate to 12,664 units. So I won't dwell on those figures too much because they are in the consultation document, but they are important because, as I said, those are the figures that the government require us to find. We have to find those through site allocations, both for housing and through employment. There was also the local plan looks at the employment need. And our employment need is about 330,000 square metres of office and a B8 floor space, commercial floor space. And we're very, we're looking to meet that need as well through this plan. But obviously the housing is the most challenging in terms of a local plan for delivery because these numbers are quite extensive. So that's just an example of a chapter and how the plan works. And I'll just come back out of that. I'm going to then go, I probably haven't got too much time and I'm probably spending too much time on here, but I think it's an important element to spend on the local plan because it's a very large consultation. So then I'll go down into, in terms of some key elements in terms of site allocations. So within the consultation document, we have our site allocations, which are shown on an interactive map. And again, you can search for those on the interactive map. For instance, you highlight that particular area, it brings up a planning reference. See that, for instance, and nothing just because our cabinet member is here, but it just happens to fall on that. Borough Green, BG1, land north of Borough Green Gardens. What is the allocation? So within that, you can also default, if you see on the left-hand side, full list of site allocations, and then that can take you to the full list, takes you to that page. You can actually then go and screen through that page. I won't do it. And within this chapter 14, development allocations, you will see all the allocations that comprise the local plan with the reference numbers in them. So there's the link between the interactive map where it shows the allocations and in terms of the policies where that's clearly set out. So let me go back, working quite well at the moment, actually. Close that down. Like it's frozen. Okay, right, I'll go back one more. So that's in terms of site allocations. Also within the map, we've got our land availability assessment. Now, what we've had to do is in order to produce the allocations to look at that over 12,500 units, we've had approximately 600 plus sites submitted under our various call for sites exercises. And now we're out to this is our third call for sites exercise, because in order to find that the number of housing, they have to meet a threshold test. They have to be suitable, deliverable, and they have to be available. So there's certain legal tests that land must meet, and effectively there is an evidence-based assessment that we have to go through in terms of, and what we call that is the land availability assessment, which sets out every single site we've had under the call for sites, those 600 plus units, They've been sifted through an evidence-based assessment, and the overall conclusions are set out. The high-level conclusions are set out on what we call the land availability assessment. So again, these can be reviewed online. There is this assessment, and at the bottom of this page there is a link that takes you to our Placemaker software, which effectively assesses. Sorry, my down button is working. So within here, you can see there are maps which effectively make up how this screening exercise has been carried through. And their appendix 1 is sites considered too small for developments. Anything less than 5 is automatically cut out because that's not what the LAR assessment looks at. Sites with extant planning permissions are cut out of that process because they've already got planning permission and they're already contributing to that figure 4,500 that I showed you earlier that contribute to our supply. And then you come back to effectively this plan, which is a site summaries plan, which goes through an assessment of every single site. So I'm not going to go through it now, but for instance, if I wanted to look at this site, then effectively I can call up that particular site and the whole assessment is on this screen below, and what you'll see is a summary conclusion as to whether that is suitable for delivery as part of the local plan allocation. So that is done for every single 600 allocations. So if you want to examine every single site and look at how we've effectively sifted that, then the LAR conclusions set that out quite clearly. So I think that gives me, I'll just get back to the landing page again. We've also, I should set out, we've also produced a policies map, which is here, which allows you to look at downloaded. A large piece of software, so it takes a bit of time to load up, but effectively this are all the constraints that are layered across the borough. So this is split up into 9 tiles. So if you want to look at and go into a lot more detail, it's split up into various tiles, and you can zoom in into this plan and look at the constraints. It layers on national landscapes, formerly AOMBs, greenbelt areas, SSSIs, includes the site allocations within it. So it puts the whole constraint layers of the borough. So if you wanted to sort of look at a particular area, what are the constraints? You go to the proposals map, have a look at this, and there's the legend key on the right hand side, and it sets out all the issues in terms of the local plan. So I think that effectively goes, and that really is a very quick canter through the local plan, but there's a lot of information contained on this, but there's also a lot of evidence base that supports this local plan, and the evidence base is accessible through the website, through Commonplace, and you can go and have a look, and there's a huge amount of documentation within that website in terms of transport evidence, in terms of greenbelt analysis, both stage 1 and stage 2 reporting, both in terms of landscape evidence. We've commissioned a very extensive landscape evidence. The first time we've done that in the borough, which effectively goes look and does a landscape and visual impact assessment on those sites that are allocated and looks at the suitability of those allocations and what impact they're going to have on the landscape. So there is a huge amount and a wealth of evidence that supports the local plan and justifies why the allocations that have been are currently proposed allocations have been put forward, because they've all been through this screening exercise that includes flood risk assessment, as I said, landscape, greenbelt analysis, lots of supporting evidence on that basis. And then lastly, we've also got the questions, and there's a Q&A section within the website that allows key questions to be asked, and obviously we're using this to gain comments back on the local plan. So I think a couple of pleas from me. I mean, obviously, we are having to progress the local plan. The government has set a deadline of December 2026 for submission of plans. And that means our turnaround time and our timeframes for moving the local plan are quite tight. We want to be able to feed back comments on the local plan as quickly as possible, both to members and to the community of Tunbridge and Morling. And the way to do that is as much as possible for comments to be received through the website. Now, I do appreciate that raises certain challenges, but by enabling it through the website, it enables quicker review of the consultation responses that are coming through the local plan. So that's just really a sort of a plea from me, but there are other mediums. We've got a pro forma that can be requested. As I said, that has to be requested through our local plans website, but we can supply those. And also, obviously, there is the local plans website where we receive other comments in terms of by email that effectively we then condense into our consultation platform, so we can then respond back to members. But I think the key message here is that given our turnaround times, members want to know what residents are saying, and the quickest way to be able to do that, to let members make decisions moving forward, is to use the consultation platform and submit comments through that. So I've probably gone on far too long, Roger. I do apologise for that. But there's probably opportunity now for questions about the local plan. So happy to take any questions if Chairman was agreeable to that.
Thank you, James. Yes, we have questions. Harry?
Chairman, I will beg your indulgence for two questions, but I hope I'll keep them brief. So the first one is, you mentioned that, I'll call it in round figures, 1,100 dwellings per year for 15 years, commencing with the start of the plan. My question is, what's the highest number that Tunbridge and Morling Borough Council have ever had built when the economy was going gangbusters?
Well, that's set out in our annual service, our AMR, our annual monitoring report, which is actually going to H&P on the 2nd of December. So to answer your question, we vary over the years, and it depends on cycles. It depends on the economy. We've delivered sometimes between 450.
I'm sorry to interrupt you on this, but it's a really simple question. What's the highest number you've ever done in 1 year?
I think about 650.
About 60?
No, 650 in terms of delivery.
650.
Yeah. So in terms of the government recognise, in terms of 1,097, it's a massive step change. Our neighbouring authorities are in the same position. It is a huge step change on delivery, but that is how the government have worked out their objectively assessed need. They've required us and legislated us to meet that need. The NPPF is very clear, unequivocally so, that you must meet the objectively assessed need and you must plan for meeting that objectively assessed need. Now, I recognise that past delivery would suggest that we haven't met anywhere near that need, but effectively government are fully aware of that because we have to submit government data in terms of our completions on a yearly basis. We have to publish an AMR on a yearly basis. So the government are fully aware of what we have met in previous past, but that doesn't sway what the legislation requires us to do in meeting the current objectively assessed need. And that, as I said, is set out for our borough at 1,097 dwellings per year.
Thank you for that. And my next question is, you've said in just earlier that you hope to have this lodged with the government by December of 26. And just going back to the previous item that we were looking at, according to the timetable, Tunbridge and Morling comes to an end on the 31st of March of 2028. That gives you 15 months to get it from what is effectively Reg 19 right the way through to inquiry and out the other side. You think you can do that?
The government messaging is very clear. Progress, crack on with it. We expect you to deliver that plan. If you don't deliver the plan, then there are all sorts of other measures that the government can intervene with on that basis. But the government are very clear. They want local authorities to have a plan in place. Local government reorganisation shouldn't slow that down. And members at Tunbridge and Morning have given a very clear indication that they want the plan progressed under the current system. Because obviously, as you will be aware, obviously there are changes ahead and afoot in terms of local plans that the government have mentioned. And obviously members have been very clear on the basis that we need to move forward and have a local plan in place, because that is the best way to stop speculative development coming forward. And that's what we're progressing with. There are extremely difficult decisions going forward. There are tight timelines, tight timeframes to meet, but we're on target to meet that. We've met the target as set out in our local development scheme, which is again published on our website, and we intend to meet the target for submission by December 26 as well.
No doubt the government will be asking for 5,000 wondrous things to be done before breakfast. Thank you.
Right. Any other questions from the floor? Westmoreland?
Yes. While the local plan is still being worked through, I assume until the planning inspectorate have actually signed it off, that it's actually not, doesn't have a legal status. Is that correct?
In terms of legal status, a local plan gains momentum as it moves through the process. But currently, as it stands, because it's out to consultation and there's an up-to-date evidence base backing it up, it is a material planning consideration. So both the plan and the evidence base are material planning considerations. It is up to the decision maker to apply what weight you would apply to those policies, to that evidence, and that will change depending on the various circumstances. But obviously you need to be aware that Reg 18 is new, it's fresh, the evidence base hasn't been tested, but obviously you've got to look back at our local plan, which is dated 2007 and 2010 for the DPD element. So that is very aged in terms of planning terms. It is still carries in terms of weight the currently adopted local plan, but this local plan at Reg 18 is a material planning consideration, and you'll see that referenced in reports going to planning committee, because officers will need to take it into account, because that's backed up by an evidence base, which is the latest evidence the council has. For instance, landscape evidence, the latest evidence. We've never had an LVIA on our proposed site allocations. So, that is evidence. And if that evidence shows that that site is suitable, then obviously in landscape terms, it doesn't cause harm. Then obviously if you took that forward in terms of a decision on planning and you referred to the harm to the landscape, then the evidence would contradict that. So that would carry then a lot more weight in that decision-making process, because you've got no other evidence to conclude otherwise. So as I said, that's why the weight changes depending on the circumstances, but a general process is that it's a material planning consideration, and on that basis, that's how officers will be assessing it. Is that clear?
Right, Taylor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. It's not so much a question, more a comment. I don't want to say too much because Matt and I will be visiting most of you over the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks. The one message I do want to get across is this is not the local plan. This is a step on the way to a local plan. And the local plan will change because of evidence that comes forward. And the consultation responses are evidence. So don't put your hands over your ears and say, this site over my dead body. Think about what your red lines are. Traffic, flooding, could be anything like that. Make sure you inform us about that. Think what the benefits of development could accrue to your community. Education, you know your place better than I do. Make sure you use the consultation to inform the local plan. Thank you.
Could I just add something to that, especially in the parishes? This is your forum. When you do make consultations and on the website, copy those into your borough councillors. If we don't know what you're saying, we've got 27 parishes across the borough. I don't know what Hadlow's is saying, but if you copy your own borough councillor into your comments, at least we've got a little bit of an idea of what you're saying. So talk to your borough councillors, copy them into your comments. We will make sure that, and I'm sure James will agree on this, that they are addressed. So, as I say, it is a consultation. You are the parishes. We need to hear from you. Okay? Thank you. There's no further questions on that. We now go to item 8, which is the update on planning enforcement. And we've got our planning development manager, Ian Williams, and our principal enforcement manager, Jodie Solomons. So they're going to make a presentation. Please carry on.
Good evening all. I'm just going to give a brief overview of what the planning enforcement team are currently dealing with. Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now? There you go. I'm just going to give a brief overview of what we're trying to achieve in the planning enforcement department, and sort of introduce myself firstly. I've spoken to many of you before since my time in TMBC. We've got a team of 2 officers. Lisa Dixon is a new staff member, and I'm sure most of you know Richard Edmonds. He's been here many years, and he has lots of institutional knowledge of TMBC. So our current performance and investigation process, we're trying to streamline it by making more decisive decisions, trying to be more efficient with complaints that are being received, and making sure that they thoroughly investigate. The number of cases opened have increased since my start, and I'm assuming that's because I'm new, and I put my name out there so that people can address me directly, which has opened up many new cases, and we are trying to deal with them swiftly as we can. We obviously have priority cases that we deal with, listed buildings, TPOs, and various other sites. We're also looking at renewing the local enforcement plan to see what changes we can propose and what policy updates we can implement. We've got a new initiative that we're trying to achieve with direct action on untidy land. We've had some funds made available so that we can employ a supplier to actually go into a site, clear it up, and address the issue. There's just some performance indicators showing the uptick in cases that have been closed in the last 6 months. There has been a lull in August only because of some holidays and various other issues that arose. But I'm trying to maintain a positive closure rate, speedily assess cases that sent to us. Those are just some figures of the notices served in the recent months. There have been a few listed building enforcement notices, condition notices, and there has been one preservation order notice served. Planning contravention notice is substantially higher, and that's more of a information notice that contraveners are legally required to reply to. That's just a bit more on the enforcement planning review that I'm currently dealing with and trying to implement more stringent letters for developers for certain complex cases and top priority cases. We're trying to implement more delegations to our senior enforcement officer, Richard. Then, like I mentioned before, the direct action guideline. We've also trying to introduce a new digital platform that I think Ian could elaborate on.
So at the moment, the planning department is moving back to Uniform, which is a back operating sort of database that holds both the enforcement and planning and TPO information. It's a leading database. It's widely used by other authorities, and it will sort of provide benefits. One of the things that officers like myself and Jodie, as well as existing officers at the council, have used it before and understand the functionality of it. It also will hopefully reduce the time officers are sort of processing any enforcement complaints, but also planning applications as well. The database itself is customizable and can be configured to local needs. So from my experience, Uniform looks different from when I worked at Sutton to Surrey Heath to the version that I've seen so far at TNBC. We'll also be introducing Enterprise, which is an add-on to the database itself. This sort of provides workflow and management tools to actually monitor caseloads and performance of the officers, but also allows officers to see cases are coming up to their time for determination or specific deadlines that need to be met. The sort of move to Enterprise and Uniform will hopefully improve the officer's ability to sort of work more effectively, improving efficiency overall and overall performance within sort of the department itself.
That's all I have. I just need to also mention we are working in conjunction with MT Homes and the anti-social behavior, various other departments to achieve compliance on various sites. That's a running program that we have just don't have any. How that's working. Is there any questions? Can I just say one thing? Unfortunately can't speak to any specific cases because all enforcement investigations are. So if you have specific questions, you can mail me directly. My details are on the slide.
Would you introduce yourself?
Hi. Oh, yes, I will. Kirsty Mitchell from Item. And I was wondering, I've not seen before the untidy land. That's very interesting. I don't, how is that assessed? That's the first time we've ever heard of it. Because we do have cases of untidy land, and we've always told that we had to prove some environmental contamination. Otherwise, it's a very subjective thing.
It's something that I obviously investigate, or my case, or the team investigates on a case-by-case basis. So we visit the site to assess the harm that it's caused to the property and to the residential neighbours, and then we take a stance on whether it's expedient enough to issue one.
But how do you assess harm? I mean, are you just?
It's overgrown, untidy. Most cases, people are dumping unwanted furniture. Those types of situations.
More flight of it.
Yeah. Flight of being on a private land parcel.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you.
Harry.
Thank you, Chairman. So I have to say, and I noted very carefully what you said about individual sites, and I will not refer to them, at least in name. I'm from Ruton Parish, and I'm aware of 3 sites, all of which I've seen and attended, spoken to the developers over recent years. One site lost their appeal on built development, went ahead and built it anyway, and said, we're going to go ahead, we are going ahead with it because we know that there is no planning enforcement in Tunbridge and Morling. With another, it was a commercial premises which has been extended and extended into the greenbelt without any control at all in terms of enforcement, reported on umpteen occasions, at least a dozen occasions by my parish council to Tunbridge and Malling. And on the third one, again, this is built development continues, even though there is no planning consent for it. And my question to you, through you, Chairman, is really simple. The world at large, the developers at large, do not believe that Tunbridge and Malling could enforce. Why should I believe you now when over the last 5 or 6 years you haven't delivered?
I've only just started 6 months ago. So I can't speak to what happened 5 or 6 years ago, but I am trying to change the narrative. I am trying to tackle these cases as and when now.
I wasn't referring it to the individual. I meant from the point of view of Tunbridge and Malling as a borough council. It was the body corporate to which I was referring, rather than an individual officer.
James.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear about the cases that obviously you're referring to. And as I said, it's very difficult to comment on those particular cases. So, you know, by all means, please provide that information to us. Obviously, you know, we have to follow government guidance in terms of expediency tests and various other scenarios and apply the public interest tested enforcement. So, you know, in terms of there may be reasons why the council hasn't taken action, but as I said, we can look at those individual cases and then come back to you on that basis. But I do appreciate enforcement can be quite an emotive subject, and not everyone agrees with the decisions that we have to make because we have limited resources and we have to prioritise where those resources go in the most suitable places. So we can't necessarily enforce on all elements. What the current enforcement manager is looking to do is looking to prioritise and be more proactive on that case, on the various cases, so we can effectively make decisions sooner and quicker and either decide to take action or decide not to take action on that basis. And I appreciate that can be difficult for some, because you may not agree with the recommendation, but we have to sort of look at the guidance and obviously take into account any legal advice that we may receive. So I think in summary, happy to look at the cases that you refer to. If you refer them to Jodie, we will look into them and provide a sort of an explanation and a reason as to why they haven't progressed. Thank you, Chairman.
Wendy.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to say I wouldn't want your enforcement job for the world. Believe me, I think you're very brave to go out onto some of the sites and face some of the people you face. I have to agree that I would like to see the department have more teeth. That particular site is just carrying on regardless. They even had the landscaping people in there this week. So that's new. What I would also like to see is these developers know that when they do things on a Friday, they can do things all over the weekend and nothing will happen. And now maybe need more officers to be able to do a weekend shift, because especially when it's things like trees, poor old Ed cannot be on there 24/7. And the other thing what I'd like to happen is we found out on one particular site that the TPO that we thought was enforced because it was on the website for a whole area, in fact, only existed for trees that were there in 1965, because that's when the original TPO was put on the site. So I would also like to ask if we could get some agency people in to go around all of the TPO sites, update them so that they are up to date and we know what is on the website down as a TPO site could actually be a TPO site, because parish councils rely on that maps on the website to know where the TPO areas are. and obviously they don't exist if they're that old, basically. So thank you.
You want to answer that?
Can try and answer that. I can obviously try and answer that, but obviously it talks about finance in terms of where you're looking at. And obviously, you know, we've just had a PAS review, a Planning Advisory Service review. That's coming to H&P committee on the 2nd. That sets out a whole list of recommendations in terms of suggestions that PAS have made for improvements, and that will become available very soon next week. But obviously it's around budgets. Enforcement is a discretionary service. Planning isn't a discretionary service, and the council has to make difficult decisions in terms of where it puts its resources. As much as we've got the chief exec sitting here, I'd love to say, great, I'd love to have all these number of officers and we can do this, this and this, but someone has to make some very difficult decisions in terms of where you deploy your resources, and especially where that is a discretionary service. So the council, in my mind, puts quite a lot of resources into enforcement. It's got an enforcement manager, a senior enforcement officer, and an enforcement officer. That's 3 enforcement officers, and we're not the biggest borough in Kent. So if you look at that and equate it to what other councils invest, I consider that Tunbridge and Morling invests quite substantially in enforcement provision. I accept that members want to see more, and I'm probably not answering Wendy's question directly, but it does evolve around resources. And if you want to then review all the TPOs that are available and undertake a review, that costs a substantial sum of money. And the council has to decide, you know, where that money either should come from, or is that the best use of resource. So whilst I'd love to be able to say, as head of department, that's what we need to do, I'm very wary that the council has lots of other services that it has to provide, and it has to balance what we do in terms of enforcement provision. And I think we do a good job. There's more work to be done going forward, and Jodie set out what we're looking to do to be more proactive on that basis. I understand enforcement is challenging. It is in every authority, and we need to do more work on it, and we will do more work, but we have to look at where we put those resources. And I think I probably won't say any more on that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, James. Matt?
Put simply, if we're to invest more in enforcement, which I agree we would like to do, we will have to find that money from somewhere. So something we'll have to discontinue, or we'll have to look at increasing income to the council some other way. I mean, it's I appreciate why James can't say that, but I probably can. And obviously borough councillors have to consider those very difficult questions. All advice and views from parish councillors on where additional income may come from, or services you'd like us to discontinue, we'd be pleased to hear them. Thank you.
I just want to add to what the leader said. So the first thing is that we're in a much better position than we have been. The planning service has really been challenged by significant turnover in recent years, staff shortages, gaps, vacancies, agency staff. That has impacted on performance overall, including our ability to enforce. We ended up with very few. In fact, I think we ended up with 1 enforcement officer in the planning service, but I'm really pleased to let you know that our staffing situation is now back under control. We are very fortunate in the appointment of Ian, who we have here, and Jodie. They bring a lot of exactly the kind of experience we are looking for. And Jodie has already demonstrated in only a matter of a few weeks his ability to get on top of our enforcement cases, address the backlog, and start to turn things around. So I think there is lots to be optimistic about. I'm not pretending for a moment that we'll get to a point where everyone is happy and every single case is being addressed in the way that you might like. We simply would never have the resources to offer a 24/7 service. And even if we arrange things on a Friday night, you know, people who want to try and get away with things will find another time. Could be midnight, could be in the early hours, to get up to mischief, knowing that there will be a little gap between when we will be able to send an officer on site. But the good thing where we stand today is that we have a well-resourced, performing planning service, and really good officers who are determined to make things better. I think we need to give them a chance to do that and review where we are in a few months' time. Thank you.
Wendy?
Thanks for the opportunity to come back. I realise it's down to cost. We know that. However, with regard to the TPOs, if a parish wanted to invest some of their precept in getting the TPOs in their parish updated, is there a mechanism by which we can do that? Could the council recommend somebody that would be acceptable to the council to register those, so we don't end up with a 1965 area being, decimated? Basically, they literally took a bulldozer through it, and I think Jodie knows the area I'm talking about. And apparently there was only 2 trees there in 1965. It was a woodland when they decimated it. So could parishes do that? Is there some way that if we wanted to, we could contribute to getting those sites updated?
And Chair, through you, I think it's definitely something that we can explore. I think inevitably it would have to be the borough council that commissioned the work, and there's an overhead for doing that. But if a parish was prepared to pay for the costs of employing an external company to do the legwork, I think it's definitely something we'd be open to have a conversation about.
Robin?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just going back to the reference that the leader made to resources to cover enforcement, or lack of, put it that way. And I'm thinking back to the fact that enforcement in our environmental health sector, where when food establishments break the rules and they don't do the remedial action, then there is a charge back by that for the next visit. So I'm just thinking whether we should be thinking of a similar routine or similar solution to those that willfully abuse the planning system, and we do a charge back, and then that covers the costs that we clearly haven't got enough to cover our offices to do. Thank you.
James?
It's difficult to do a chargeback because I don't know the environmental health regime, but it's to do with it's to do with health issues. But the problem is the government have tried to look at legislating in terms of enforcement and what we call Section 73 applications, which are effectively retrospective planning applications. And they have signalled that they're going to bring in legislation soon, which enables councils to penalise those individuals that either submit retrospectives through a higher fee, because that's all they can get is a planning fee, because the Planning Act acknowledges that you can submit a retrospective application, and that's embedded in the legislation and has been for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been practicing in terms of planning. So, it's recognised that there is a regime to regularise, but the government have toyed with the ideas of increasing charges, but unfortunately they haven't materialised at this time. So as it's a discretionary service, and as that is a national mandate at the current time until the government decide to change it, then we don't have the ability to levy additional charges on that. But as I said, there's lots changing in the government at the time. They're coming up with lots of additional issues, but unfortunately at the moment, and that's all we can speak, there is no scope for charging for effectively retrospective applications. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, James. Mike?
Thank you very much, Chairman. There seems to be a clear disconnect between what Tunbridge and Morling considers enforcement action and what the parishes expect from the enforcement team. And I think it's a matter that needs addressing, and I think seriously enforcement should be top of the agenda on my next cabinet member briefing, where we can actually discuss this without worrying about confidentiality issues. I do know what you mean. The other point I wanted to ask is an actual question. At the moment, members use Power BI to look back at enforcement cases, but that only goes back to January 2014. If we go back to iDocs, will we have the full history? Because it really worries me that enforcement cases before 2014 are going to get lost. Thank you.
Ian?
Yes, so as far as I'm aware, we're not changing any of the data that was completed and finished in iDocs previously. So that will all still be there. We'd only be updating the data that from Agile, and then obviously anything going forward from Uniform. So I'm hoping that when we do get to go onto the test platforms and also our iDocs, that all of that data will still be there and all those cases will be there from when we previously used iDocs.
To add some commentary for that, obviously members, given their role, have an oversight in terms of general enforcement. So in terms of when through Power BI, as Mike will be aware, we had to do some sort of overview and updating of enforcement cases, and we had to work it from a baseline, principally on the basis because it takes quite a lot of time when you introduce a new process to make sure you have a case summary. And that's effectively what Mike is talking about, case summaries for cases that go projected forward. So all the cases are in the system, but what we wanted to do at that time was to allow members to have easy access to an overview of cases. So we set a baseline, projected it forward and did all the work to make sure that was all updated, but all historical cases weren't updated. So you know, all that information is there. It's all visible to officers. The only thing is that overview is not visible to members at this time. But we are looking at seeing how we can take that back. But again, you know, that looks at a sort of resource implication going forward, and we'll have to produce new Power BI reports for when we go back to Uniform. So it's something that we are looking into. I know the Cabinet member has requested that on previous occasions. We are looking into providing that. It just takes time because we have to go back and do site summaries of all the histories and all the events, and you know that takes time to include. But it's something we're fully aware of. We know what the Cabinet member wants. We're looking into it, and we'll look to see how that can be progressed moving forward. It might have to be in bite-sized sections because it takes time, and we're trying to be more proactive and directing our resources to those areas. But I'm fully aware that members want to see site histories of some of the older cases going forward. So that's maybe we can look at prioritising the cases that are open going back past that date and seeing how we progress on that. But again, we can discuss it at the Cabinet member briefing.
Could I suggest that we have an update on the next Parish Partnership panel, which is on the 5th of February 2026, just an update on progress. Any other questions from the floor? Borough Green?
I won't labour it anymore about the points, but collectively there's been issues raised regarding the enforcement and that it hasn't been in place. But now we have a team, you have a strategy, which is wonderful. But I'm just concerned slightly that we have a local plan with loads of houses being built and the potential for breaking those regulations, and that we need the resources to ensure that they're keeping to the planning applications, etc. Wendy's mentioned TPOs and the issues. So is there any way that this can be wrapped together in some sort of, I don't know, policy that we look at? I mean, we can't make recommendations at this, we're a panel just listening. But can I ask you, Chairman, to bring it back, as you said in February, with something a little bit more concrete about how we can actually move forward with reliance on our enforcement team to trust them and know that they have the resources to carry out the job that they've been asked to do, because there's been a lack of confidence over the years. Thank you, Chairman.
So I'm sure the officers have heard our comments. Hopefully they will bring back up on the February meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Could I just ask also that the report back deals with Article 4 directions? It's something that I've raised with officers and mentioned to the Cabinet member recently. I don't know if parishes know where the Article 4 directions are in their parishes. I was certainly trying to work out where there was one in one of my parishes, and it threw up a complication. So the officers were looking into that, and I think if that could be included in the update to see where we are with identifying where those are and making sure that parishes know where their Article 4 directions are. That would be really helpful.
Ask Ian, the development manager, to come back on that, because we're also looking at sort of a pilot project that we're just awaiting to hear from in terms of digitalisation project, which is sort of a government scheme where they kind of we've applied for funding on that basis, and on what we look to do is publish some data sets online to make it more accessible for the public. But maybe if I can hand over to Ian to maybe go into a bit more detail on what that looks like. As I said, we haven't got the funding yet, but we've applied for it, and we're very keen to deliver that, but there are some certain steps. But maybe if Ian could sort of outline that briefly.
Yes, so MCHLG, as part of their Open Digital Planning programme, they have a number of funds and programmes going forward. One of them is the Digital Planning Improvement Fund. That provides councils with a grant of up to £50,000. As part of that grant, we have to then publish essentially 8 data sets, but it boils down into TPOs and the orders that go with them, Article 4 directions and the paperwork that goes with them, the conservation areas and appraisals that go with them as well. And the last one, I can't think, listed buildings, that's the other one as well. And that's part of the sort of quid pro quo for the grant. So it's something that we've applied for. I'm still waiting to hear back from MCHLG if we've been successful in applying for the grant. But that will be a project going forward in sort of the new year. Should we get the grant, I believe we'll be, I believe it's February when to pay that money, and then it's something that we do. So it's something that we are looking into at this moment in time. But we just need to make sure that the sort of data that we have, i.e. the Article 4s, the TPOs, are actually valid, enforceable, etc. So it will take a bit of time to go through the data and actually cleanse it before publishing it on the central government website.
Just saying that it's another thing we're looking to improve the services, the accessibility of the services wherever we can, and appreciate the fact in terms of the resource implications, but where we can apply for it, we apply for it. And Ian's leading on that project, and we're hopeful that we'll get the grant funding to enable to deliver to publish exactly what Michelle has just said. In terms of publishing information that should really be available, but due to resource implications and digitalisation, it hasn't come to fruition at this stage. So it's just we're being proactive on that basis to enable more information to become available to members of the public and to parishes and yourselves.
Very much, James. Right, item 9, informal land register. Mike Taylor, can you enlighten us to what it all means?
Thank you very much. This all sprang from a question last summer, I think, by Councillor Oakley about a contaminated land register. We were told we hadn't got one. So we all know of contaminated landfills, quarries in our parishes. So we decided to put together an informal landfill register to make sure that historical knowledge that we have in parishes isn't lost. What may appear to be a greenfield site in 20, 30 years' time might be a contaminated landfill. So with the help of the parishes, we put together an informal landfill register. Now, what was interesting during that process was we actually came across 2 contaminated sites. So I think we have the kernel of a new contaminated land register. Whether that's a formal one, I don't know if there is a formal land register or whether it's an informal one held by the planning department. I don't know, but it's something that we need to have recorded. And if the members here tonight agree, what I'd like to do is submit this informal landfill register to the local plan as part of the evidence base. Thank you, Chairman.
Harry first.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Harry. Yes, just really a request that I take it this register is a live register, and if any parish council wanted to add to it, they could do so.
It is definitely a live document. We're only on version 3 at the moment, but we've got hundreds of numbers we can use. Thank you.
Chairman, I'd like to say that Mike Taylor has a long and distinguished career as a local councillor. And I think that actually this document is going to be probably one of the pinnacles of that. Given the nature of the way that this has come forward, with his long background in quarrying in the Borough Green and in fact in West Kent as a whole, I really take my hat off to him and the work that he and those who have collaborated with have brought forward here. And I'm very much happy to second his proposal that this document be brought forward in, if not in its current form, if it needs to be amended in some way, then I don't want to be overly prescriptive, but I'm very much in favour of it coming forward and being recorded because, as he said, we don't have anything at the moment. And I'll just make reference to page 29 on the report, site number 13, and say that this particular site is one of great concern to me and has been for the last 20 years since the Southern testing report came out. And I'm also aware of the fact that in addition to the remains of the old BP oil refinery at the Isle of Grain, it also contains material brought from the old southeastern gasworks site at the location of the current O2 arena. That was cleaned out in the 1990s, as you'll guess from the fact that it was built for the millennium. That also had material tipped in here. It is a really concerning site because it's a water collection point, and the water goes from here by the River Bourne to the Medway, which is just upstream of the abstraction point for drinking.
James, can you enlighten us? I know we're not the foreign authority.
Yeah, I mean, I just think Mike has suggested we use it as an evidence base. I mean, obviously, we do have a contaminated land strategy, which will obviously need to be updated in due course. In terms of contaminated land at the council is managed and reviewed by our regulatory services manager. It comes under that, and we've had discussions in the past. I know Mike has informed him on that basis, and he has said he would find that information useful, albeit he does conclude that we don't have any formally declared contaminated land under Part 2A of the Environmental Act. So in terms of actual designation, but he has reviewed the document and said it would be useful for future information that they would use in terms of assessment. So I mean, obviously we use contaminated land as part of our sustainability appraisal, and so we have a sort of a GIS base layer on that, and we liaise with our environmental health team quite closely on that basis. But notwithstanding that point, he has said he would find this quite useful to draw information upon in terms of their future requirements. So recommendation be as it stands. In terms of where evidence base, I mean, as I said, it was something that they would look at. I don't think it's something that we'd necessarily publish, but the environmental health team would have access to on that basis. But obviously, you know, we take it away and have further discussions on that point with the sort of regulatory services manager on how that could be most utilised to fulfil their statutory role.
Thank you, James. I think we're starting on the way forward. Thank you. Item 10, update on anti-social behaviour enforcement. Des, I believe you're leading on this, or is Jill?
I'm very happy to lead on this, Chair. Thank you very much indeed. I'm afraid, ladies and gents, I can't fit planning into this update, so James can have a bit of a rest on this one. But I'm really pleased to be able to report that Tunbridge and Morning remains one of the very safest areas to live, work and socialise across Kent. We do share that title with our colleagues in Sevenoaks and Tunbridge Wells. And as you know, the antisocial behaviour enforcement team started its latest contract in May of this year, and it's just finished on the 16th of November. There's been ups and downs, and what I really like about what we're doing in Tunbridge and Malden is our performance is sustainable and it stays low, remains low. Others fluctuate. You can imagine a VW sign is up and down, but we remain sustainably low, which is exactly what we want it to do. In terms of the team, we employed Kingdom Services back in May, and they started on the 21st of May. And as I say, the contract finished on the 16th of November. 4 officers, it doesn't seem a lot, but they smaller the better in certain circumstances because they were directed to hotspot locations across the borough with the help of our parish council clerks and committees, and indeed Kent Police and the intelligence system that works brilliantly well across Kent. They worked from Wednesdays till Sundays. The funding from the team was sourced from the Borough Council, and some borough councils also contributed, which we were very grateful for. And in receipt of those funds, they received a service delivery plan where they could, as I say, receive a service from us if and when they needed it. The community safety team received daily reports from the team, the antisocial behaviour team, detailing the work that they did. That was every day. And relevant information was provided, passed to the police or other agencies, so there could be a multi-agency response to various issues, crime-related, antisocial behaviour-related, and even fly tipping reports, which has always been a good thing for the Waste Services team. So the feedback from the residents over this latest contract was positive. We've had some fantastic feedback, and people appreciating seeing a uniform presence on the streets other than Kent Police. We've had challenges, and there's always learning experiences which we seek to address quite naturally. I just wanted to bring to your attention tonight, before I go on to the next steps, many of you will remember Kings Hill last year, especially on Halloween. There was many offences committed. We had near 100 people coming off the trains, going into Kings Hill and absolutely causing carnage on Halloween and other areas across our borough. This year, across the whole borough of Tunbridge and Malden, we only had 18 reports of antisocial behaviour. And that's because we learnt the lessons from last year, coordinated a fantastic response, and had huge success. And in fact, we even deployed officers at the train station at West Malden, at least 60 to 80 children getting up. I say children, youths, young people getting off the trains at West Malden, seizing fireworks, drugs, hammers, etc., etc. All of those people were stopped to getting into Kings Hill. I know it caused a bit of traffic carnage, but we closed roads as well. I can see Sarah over there looking. Yeah, sorry about the traffic carnage, everyone. But it was a fantastic achievement for us as a multi-agency in tackling crime and antisocial behaviour. Snodland as well. Snodland, Snodland's a really tough place to police, to enforce. It's vast. We've got 2 brilliant councillors, and I think they're both dialed in tonight, who really work me hard, work the Community Safety Partnership hard, because they're passionate about what they want to see in Snodland. We put out quite a lot of officers on Halloween also into Snodland, and again, no major incidents of violence. And this is how it all pulls together. This is all the intelligence-led policing and local authority work pulls together. And as I say, to have only 18 crimes on a high hotspot night of Halloween is quite amazing. That's across the whole borough. So next steps. The Borough Council has agreed to continue with the ASB team for 2026-27. So this is 2 years. We are going to rename them because we don't like the word enforcement anymore. We're going to rename them the Safer Neighbourhoods team, and I think that's a good thing because that lessens the profile and gives them a more approachable demeanour, if you like. We've written recently to parish councils to request funding again. We're going to have a flat rate of £2,000 each for each year, and parish clerks would have received these by now. For that money, you get your service delivery plan, you'll get your additional services, and you'll get bespoke service from that. We'll be sending out a survey very soon to parish and town councils seeking any additional feedback or suggestions. We really do need feedback and we do need suggestions because, as I say, it's only our second year and I think we've hit the nail on the head both years, but we always want to improve. Jill Fox, as you see at the front there, and our community safety lead, Alison Finch, have already started the procurement process for the next couple of years. And they're looking to get the tender document out in January for the company that wins the contract. Now, you may have noticed in the script there that we're not going to go year on year for now. The next contract will be for 2 years, because what we want to do is we want the antisocial behaviour enforcement team to know their community, to get used to the community, to get used to the pitfalls, the goods, the bads, the risks, and we want our communities to get used to them. So we're going to go for a 2-year period next time round. And that pretty much is it. But I really want to reiterate that we are living in a very safe area of the county. I look nationally at some of the statistics, and you know we are really, really low. And we have seen a rise over the summer, but then again, every year, it's the same as night following day. You see a rise in Q2, which is the summer months. It is already going down from September onwards. So we're in a good position, and I'm looking forward to the next 2 years with the support of the parish councils, if possible. And I'm happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you, Des. There's one little question that at the briefing today was brought up that Rye did not receive a letter. Now, can I ask, are there any other parish councils that did not receive a letter? Yeah.
Yeah, the emails did go out to all parish clerks on the 11th of November. So they should have gone, but if for some reason there's any that haven't had, just send me an email and we'll make sure we send it out again.
Thank you, Jill. Any questions from the floor?
Could I just ask if it's £2,000? Some parishes are really small. Is it not possible to vary the fee to make it more attractive to parishes that have less problems, should I say? Thank you.
I think it's a really good question. I will have to seek consult with the officers. You're absolutely right. We've already had a couple of responses from very, very small parishes who say, look, it really isn't worth it. It's probably much our whole budget. And so we are going to have to go and have a little think about that. We always say £2,000 because it brings a great deal into it, covers administrative costs, etc., for that parish and what we bring to it. But I will have a chat with Jill and the team, and we'll see what we can do, I think, on that. Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions?
I believe I am, Chairman. Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to welcome our new Climate Change Officer, Louise Stewart. And hey presto, we've got some lovely slides now that she's really good at doing. Sadly, it's got some pictures that I've taken, so I do apologise for that. So actually, there's only 2 slides, so don't get too concerned because I'm mindful that it's getting a bit late now. So quick update for you. In terms of recycling, so I think the most important thing that's happening at the moment is the food waste campaign, or put it this way, putting food in the right receptacle for recycling. So you've seen stickers on your bins saying no food in here, please. So it's just trying to target food waste and it gets directed to the correct area. So that's the current campaign going forward at the moment. Just as I talk about that, actually, because it sort of links in with why we're doing this, and that's to basically compost food and also fill up a lovely anaerobic digester at Blaze Farm that's run by KCC, and that produces at full capacity produces gas that could potentially run the whole of Kings Hill. That's the significance of recycling your food waste in the correct way. That's the benefit. So linking with that again, and Louise, you have to correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think we've now got it confirmed that at last, Chairman, and I know you've been nagging me about this, but at last we've got 2 visits organised to go and see. One is to go and see the HRWC RC site at Allington, household waste recycling site. So we can go and see what's happening there, which is quite incredible, really, in terms of recycling. It's a state-of-the-art recycling centre. So that's number 1 visit, and that's on the 27th of November. That's the planned day at 9 o'clock, isn't it? Yeah. And then after that, straight after, we thought we'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and then that's then to go on to Blaze Farm to see the composting. They're not allowing us to jump into the anaerobic digester, thankfully, but I think we might be able to see it from a distance. So there's 2 worthy visits there, and I know that the Parish Partnership Panel were sort of nagging me to try and get these organised. So at last they're organised. If it doesn't quite work, or if people can't do it, I'm sure we can organise another visit next year. So take that into account. So going on from the food campaign, so single-use plastics, that's been the latest one that we've actually, in collaboration with my cabinet colleague on my left, Des Kears, between the 2 of us, we've pushed forward a plan of reducing or recycling at events in and around our borough. And the biggest campaign for that is single-use plastics, or not to use them in the first place. And so at events, we're encouraging a deposit scheme, single-use cups, along with recycling, of course. And the idea of that campaign is to encourage, not hit event organisers or indeed stallholders with a stick, but actually just to gently encourage them that this is the better way to go, and obviously better for the environment, etc., etc. Waste contract. So we've got some, obviously, sadly, Martin's just out of action at the moment, but he has been progressing big time with the procurement or tender documents for a new waste services contract. But within that is HVO use. That's I always get this wrong. I call it hydrogenated vegetable oil, but I know that's not quite correct. The benefit of using that type of fuel in our refuse lorries means that carbon is reduced by a massive 90%. It's a significant improvement on carbon emissions. So that's all part of the whole contract, but it's a big part in terms of climate change. Community energy air source heat pump group buying scheme, sort of modelled on the solar together, has gone forward. Oh, and the thermal imaging camera. I know that's always in big demand at this time of year, but just to remind parish councils, it's a thermal imaging camera provided by Tunbridge Morning Borough Council that you can loan and identify high heat loss areas on homes, community, village halls, etc., etc. So take that to account and put your name down on the list, because there's probably a long waiting list again for this year. Right, Larkfield Leisure Centre, I'll quickly update you on that. I visited Larkfield Leisure Centre a couple of weeks ago. So far, all the PV panel installation has now been completed, and that will produce around about 215,000 kilowatts a year. So for those that aren't really big time into climate change and might want to see a return, then the return on that to the council in terms of income or savings will be in the region of around about £43,000 a year. But yeah, so every last little bit of the roof of Larkfield Leisure Centre is now covered in PV panels. Air source heat pumps have all been installed, not commissioned as yet. So that picture on the left there doesn't really give the scale of the air source heat pumps, but they're basically 1.5 times, no, maybe even twice as high as me in that picture. So considerable equipment there to heat the pools using air source heat pumps. But of course, those air source heat pumps then are being run by the PV panels that are on top of the roof. So it's all in one. It's a good carbon reduction scheme. And they should be going online by hopefully early part of next year. All the infrastructure's in there. They're just sorting out switchgear, etc., etc. Polkwood Golf Centre, the same thing there. They've reduced the oil-fired boilers with a grant to go over to air source heat pumps. And that work is scheduled to begin early part of next year. And then just to finish on Community Development Fund, that's been supporting all many different projects in and around the borough. And then I'll quickly put a plug in for the Green Business Grants. A new round is due to come out end of January. So it's around, I think it's going to be fixed again at £5,000 per grant application to support carbon reduction measures, energy efficient measures, etc., for our businesses in and around the borough. So keep your eyes open for that when that's going to get launched towards the end of January next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. Any comments from the floor? Sarah.
There you go. You've had some peace until now, Roger. When I saw single-use plastics, I got a little bit excited about this. I know simple things, please simple minds. But from what you've said, this is just plastic cups and not the plastic sleeves that the vegetables go into in the supermarkets, etc. So at the moment, you can only recycle those to some supermarket, and they are few and far between. What is Tunbridge Morning's plan for that type of single-use plastic recycling, please? I also have another question as well, which I can take after, if I may, Chair.
Louise, you might want to add to this, but in terms of what we're trying to achieve at events, the idea is it's a deposit cup scheme, okay? So, and those cups get returned and then they can be washed and reused. So they're not single-use plastic, they're reusable cups. But the idea is rather than serving drinks, etc., in single-use plastics that then have to be recycled, you go down the deposit cup routine, and then those cups get returned and then they can be reused, basically. I'll go over to Louise to add anything further about. No. If you want to give me your second question, Sarah, but I can come back to you with more detail on that first question if you like.
Yes, it's going on from this one. I note that guidance note is developed for organisers. Can we please ensure that this goes round to Parish Council, please, because they organise events, and I'm happy for it to be done through CAC if necessary. I've got one other request on this climate change bulletin. Excellent note. But in future, is it possible that we can actually have some examples from our parishes? Because I think they are part of the climate change activity within the borough. So I would like to see that in the future, if possible. And I am due to have a meeting with Louise at some point, and that's top of the list.
I'll come back, Chair. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're right. It's actually climate change is about everybody contributing, not just Tunbridge Morning, not just KCC, not just parishes, but all of us working together. So I'm more than happy to bring in stories, but the parish is obviously going to provide us with those stories, and then we can disseminate them around as good news stories in what we're all trying to achieve. So yeah, welcome that. Thank you.
Right, any further questions from the floor? No? Okay, thank you. And 12, is there any other business from Sarah?
Very quickly, I saw on the Tunbridge Morning, either Facebook or Instagram, about your community ward. And my question is this just purely for non-parish areas?
Yes.
Sarah, it's for everyone and anyone within the boundaries of Tunbridge and Morling. I'd be delighted if someone nominated you for an award.
No. I'd rather not be that.
Okay.
What I would like is parishes to know about this, because the first I saw about it was on Facebook or Instagram. I can't remember which one. Thank goodness that I do follow you and can come here and annoy Roger and other members. So could we liaise to get the next community award scheme out to parishes, please? Happy to do it via calc, whatever it takes. But you will be in competition, obviously, with the calc community award.
Okay.
But more the merrier, I say.
I agree, and through you, Chair. We did extensively communicate and engage with parishes. I mean, the clerks all got sent the letters. It was on our website. It was I can't remember. Jill, it was on everything we did, wasn't it? It was loads of communication.
Yeah, we did send a message out to the parishes. It was on our website, as Des said, and there was some social media. It was the first time we've done this for many years. So I think we were sort of considering this one a pilot one. It was fair to say it was successful. I think we'd definitely be doing it again, and we will make sure we do as much publicity as possible.
Right, any other questions? No?
I do have a question actually, and it's really to Robin, because I wanted to find out, and maybe Matt could answer this as well. It's for the last few months I've been asking Robin just exactly where I can find out how the 1.2, I think maybe 1.3 million street scene budget is spent, just to find out exactly what we should expect in item. And we aren't getting our verges clean, but I just need to find out what that pays for and what we should expect. So could somebody tell me where I can find that, please?
Robin?
Yeah, I have been chasing David on this information, and obviously, as I said at the last parish council meeting, he's been way snowed under with the tender process for the waste services contract, but that's no excuse. So funnily enough, I saw you sitting over there, and I've literally just sent another chase-up email both Darren and David this time to get that more detailed information, exactly where every penny of that street cleansing money goes.
Yeah, I'm not being pedantic. It has been 8 months now.
Yeah,
It's been asking just to find out
Yeah.
exactly what we should expect in item. So
That's
please, can we have it? Thank you.
Right, thank you. The next meeting of the parish partnership is going to be held on the 5th of February 2000.
It's not really an AOB, it's a bit of a plug. Obviously, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at the various meetings we're doing in parishes. Please do advertise them within your parishes. Obviously, we are Tunbridge and Morley are, but you guys have got the best links possible. For anyone who can't attend the meeting in their parish, any resident that is that we've got organised, we are doing an online meeting on the 15th of December. So effectively, it will be a Teams meeting. We are opening that to anyone across the borough. So if people do get in touch with the parish office and say we haven't been able to attend the meeting on whatever day it's organised, please do send them the link, and we can circulate the link. The online meeting, which will be at 7 o'clock on Monday, the 15th of December. And of course, I'm talking about local plan. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you, Matt. Right. Well, I'm so rudely interrupted by our illustrious leader. The next parish partnership panel is on the 5th of February 2026. I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's been a bit of a chilly night, but at the end of the day, when we started this parish partnership here, it was, and I think now we are actually making connections with the parishes. It's just for you to respond anytime to any of your borough councillors, because it is your parish partnership panel, and it has evolved in the last couple of 3 years to a very good talking shop, but things do get done. So I I wish you all a Merry Christmas. We're going to see some of you. And I'll close the meeting at 9:45. And thank you all for coming.